Hello. The first video I made, I showed you guys how to change equipment at runtime, but there are a couple of problems with that video. The first problem was that it wasn't really just about equipping items, it was also about a drag and drop inventory. The second problem was that it involved you guys doing a lot of typing. So this time I've changed my approach. This is just about equipping items. There is no inventory involved except for a very crude inventory kind of thing, which is what we have here. It's if I press this, he unequips, and if I press it again, he equips. So I guess that's kind of an inventory, but that's the extent of it. Because this equipping code doesn't rely on a drag and drop inventory. You can use it in any situation. You could have a magic spell which equips items. You can do whatever you want. In fact, for actually equipping the gear, once you've got all the system in place, you need one line of code. And this one line of code, if you've got all the right methods and stuff, and you've got the item database set up and all that sort of thing, that's all you need to equip any item that you want. Anything that you can write in here. Mighty sword, whatever, like whatever you want, that's going to equip that, right? So the way this is going to be structured is first I'm going to take you guys into Blender, and you'll have this exact Blender file available to you. And what you have in this Blender file is a bunch of items. You've got boots, a cuirass, a gambeson, you've got a chin beard, a moustache, long hair, a halberd, and pants, right? And these are all completely disconnected from the rig. So I'm going to show you how to connect it to the rig properly, especially things like the beard and the halberd, where it's not a simple matter of just doing attach with automatic weights. So then I'll show you how to do that. Then I'll show you how to export this Unity 3D and then set it up with the database script and with the equipment script, and to get this going, and the resources folder. Okay, so let's start with Blender. Right, so here we are in Blender, and we want to attach all these objects to their skeleton correctly. If you don't know anything about Blender, if you don't know how to navigate in the scene or anything like that, I just recommend that you watch one of the many videos on YouTube about how to do that basic stuff. In order for this equipping system to work, you need to learn how to use this Blender file. Well, technically you can do it with any skeleton, but you need to do it with the same skeleton. So if you make something in 3ds Max and use a skeleton there, then you need to just use that same skeleton. All the items have to be attached to exactly the same skeleton. So because this is the skeleton I'm giving you now, and 3ds Max and Blender, it's an absolute nightmare if you try and change skeletons between those two pieces of software. You get some really crazy behavior. So for this tutorial, you're going to have to learn the very basics of how to navigate around Blender, because this is the skeleton that we're using. So to select objects, do right click. I strongly recommend that you don't change in the settings to go left click. I did that for a while and it's not good. Blender is set up for a right click selection. Right, let's start with the hair. So right click the hair and then shift right click the armature. And let's put the armature into object mode. Let's do that again. Right click the hair, shift right click the armature, and then Control P, and you'll get this sort of UE come up. And then you want to select with empty groups. So now the hair is attached to the armature, but it's not going to deform when the armature deforms. Right click the armature, go into pose mode, and then right click this head bone, and you'll see that it's not going to deform, and that was intentional. The other options that you had, let's just quickly bring this up again. So Control P was with automatic weights, and automatic weights is used for things that go over, so meshes which go over quite a lot of bones. So this one goes over several bones, and you want this part of the mesh to animate when this bone is moving, and you want this part of the mesh to animate when these bones are moving. And then what automatic weights does is it detects where the bone is in relation to the mesh, and it weight paints accordingly. We don't want that to happen with objects which we only want to move with one bone. If we use automatic weights here, it will attach most of it to the head bone, because that's where most of it is, but also there's a little bit of overlap with the neck bone. So it'll also move with the neck bone, which leads to some weird behavior, especially with things like the beard. So in this case, we don't want to do that. We right click that, shift right click the armature, Control P with empty groups. Now we've done that, let's go into, click this again and tab into edit mode. You can press tab, or you can go into this little dialog here, go into edit mode. Now you can press A to select or deselect an object completely. So press A and make sure it's all selected. Then these are all the vertex groups. These are all the bones really that we can create vertex groups for. Let's scroll down until we find the bone that we want, which in this case is the head bone on the armature. So let's go down, A, select everything, and find the head. It would be super useful if Blender had a search option, but they just don't. There we go. Now with all those vertices selected, you can press assign, and it assigns all those vertices to this head bone. So now that we've done that, you can see that it's moving with the head, and if you want a further illustration, you can go into weight paint mode, and you can see that it's red when you select the head bone. When you right click and select the neck bone, it's blue, which means that not a single vertex is attached to that bone. It's weight painted to that bone. Now let's just repeat that same process again. I've right clicked the moustache, shift right click the armature, Control P with empty groups, then right click the moustache again, tab into edit mode, and then find the head bone again. With all those vertices selected, by pressing A, you then assign it. And then just double check it's working. Okay, right click the goatee type thing. Shift right click the armature, Control P with empty groups again. Then right click the goatee type thing, tab into edit mode with all the vertices selected, find the head bone again. Assign, and now it'll work. If you see it disconnecting from the beard, it's just because the actual head is deforming with the neck, because the head is weight painted to the neck as well, which it really shouldn't be. But anyway, not there anyway. Yeah, okay, see, as you can see, I haven't actually touch this up at all. I wouldn't actually want this head to deform, the chin to deform with the neck, because that's pretty weird. If you saw someone in real life and as their neck moved, their chin started to deform, there'd be something horribly wrong with that person. I can't help myself. I just quickly change this stuff here so the head doesn't go so crazy when the neck moves. Alright, whatever. That's slightly better. See how it's not totally disconnected? I mean, it's not like you're going to move the head in this way anyway. Like, that'd be a pretty crazy animation. But it just shows that the head isn't being as retarded as it was being before. Okay, let's get the skeleton back to normal. Go Alt-G and Alt-R. Let's get out of the skeleton. Go into object mode. Right, so we've got the beard, we've got the moustache and the goatee. Now let's do the gambeson. So right-click the gambeson, shift right-click the armature, Control P, and with automatic weights. And that does exactly what I explained before. It just attaches it to the bones that the mesh is closest to in different regions. So that's fine. Don't have to do anything else with that. We'll do the same thing with the cuirass. Right-click the cuirass, shift right-click the armature, Control P with automatic weights. That's done. You can always just double-check to be sure. I hate how I haven't found a way around this. I mean, I can make it better than this. This is just a side note, but you know, in games that I've played and loved, like Skyrim, things I didn't like is that the armor would deform with the mesh, but armor is like solid metal and it shouldn't move, you know, so I haven't found a way around that. It'd be cool if there was some way we could add a restraint to the skeleton based on some mesh, so this mesh doesn't move, so therefore when it's on this armature, the armature can't move. Okay, the pants, very much. The pants, so right click the pants, shift right click the armature, Control P, and automatic weights. There, and you see how it just pops into place there? It's now weight painted pretty well. Again, I'd have to go in there and manually touch stuff up if this was a serious model that I was making, but not today. Alright, right click the boots, shift right click the armature, Control P, automatic weights as well. So I think that's all. Oh, that says the pants aren't done yet. Why would it say that to me? I must have 2 pants? I have 2 pants. Let's delete that. Okay, so what we have left is the halberd. To do the halberd properly, you can't just leave it at its default position and attach it to the armature. Let me show you what happens if you do that. So it's down here, and then so I've right-clicked the halberd, shift right-click the armature, Control P, and then we'll do empty groups again because we want it attached just to that bone here. And this bone is called the hand item.right bone. Right-click the halberd, tab into edit mode, and then go into the vertex groups, and we'll find that one which is right. I think I passed it. It's there, and assign it. But now, if you press Alt-A, select the armature and go press Alt-A, look what happens. So Alt-A puts it into the animation state. It's over there. So that's not what we want at all, right? So let's change that. Press Alt-A again to stop the animation. A will select all the bones, and then go Alt-G and Alt-R to go back to the original position, the default armature position. What we want to do is we don't want to change where the origin is, the object origin is. We want to keep that there. If you change the origin and you move the entire object up there, you get crazy behavior as well. Instead, with the halberd selected first, let's clear that parent, might as well. So to clear a parent, you go Alt-P and clear parent. With the object selected, Alt-P, clear parent. But that's not enough. If you just clear the parent, it will still deform. Let me show you. Okay, no, it didn't. Well, I got that wrong. It did before anyway. But also, just to be sure, what you want to do as well is clear all these vertex groups. So in the halberd, you go into this little upside down triangle thing, and then you go into here and delete all groups. So now it's like we never did anything to it. Just double check that the modifier is not there. Right, okay. So to connect it correctly, you press Tab, it takes you to edit mode. And now in edit mode, you want to move this object up to that position, up to where you want it to be attached to the bone. So to orient yourself to make this a bit easier, press 3 on the numpad. That will take you to an orthographic view. If it doesn't, it's because you're still in perspective. Press 5 on the numpad to take you, so 5 switches between perspective and orthographic. So press 5 if you're not in orthographic, and take you there. And then press 3 to take you to the side perspective. Press Z, does that help? Z creates a wireframe? Not really. Well, basically you want to be in line with that bone, but on the other side. So let's, with the entire mesh selected, press A, then press G, and just move it up to where you want it to go, which is around about there. Now to make sure, if you press Control 3, it takes you around to the other side. Okay, we'll press 7 actually. 7 will take you from the top perspective, and then select this red handle and move it over there, this red arrow. Right. Let's see from the front. Press 1. Not very illuminating. Press Control 3 to take us to the other side. And that's actually looking pretty good. Well, it's kind of cutting into his hand, which is not good. Let's see if we move it down like that. How will that be? The position of the bone might not be... No, sorry, we don't want to do that, because we can change the position of the bone when we animate, and I almost certainly do. Anyway, you can come and tweak this later on to make it perfect, and I don't think it would be like that. It would be more sort of holding in the middle. Okay, so now that it's in the right position, if we attach it from this place, everything will be fine. So right-click the halberd, shift-right-click the armature, Control-B with empty groups, go into the halberd, edit mode, tab into edit mode, go into this bone here, hand item right, with everything selected, assign. Now it should work fine. If we were to press Alt-A again, you see how it's deforming correctly, or moving correctly with the armature. And that brings us to the end of this section. What we have to do is, or not quite, we have to export all this stuff to Unity now. So press Alt-A to stop that animation, A to select all the bones, Alt-G, Alt-R, and now we're ready to export this guy. So let's do that right now. Exporting objects from Blender to Unity 3D, since I've been doing this since 2014, and back in the day, it was always such a nightmare. There were so many problems and hassles and all that sort of thing. So much so I almost switched to 3ds Max, but I just love Blender so much, so I just came back. Luckily now, it's really quite straightforward. There aren't any major issues that I've detected. So the way we're going to do this is that you right-click the mesh. Let's do it mesh by mesh. Right-click the hair. Shift right click the armature, take it into object mode. You don't have to take it into object mode, I just prefer to. Okay, so right click the hair, shift right click the armature. We might as well hide that because click another bone. And then what we do now is we go into File, Export, try again, File, Export, FBX. And now selected objects and experimental. That's it. That's all you need to click for this to work. It works perfectly so far that I've experienced anyway. Now just make some sort of random folder. Let's call it shoot. already got one. Let's wait, whatever. And put it in there. We will call this long underscore hair. And export. Done. Now we go and do the same thing but with all of them. So let's click the moustache, shift right click the armature, file, export, FBX. The settings are saved and I just have to change this to moustache, moustachy. Hope I'm spelling that right. Okay, and then export. And then the beard, right click the beard, shift right click the armature. Now you'll notice how I'm not exporting the whole thing as one thing. It's important that they're separate objects, and it's important that they're all exported with the skeleton, otherwise it will not work. Beard. Export. And let's export the top of the gambeson, so called gambeson. Cuirass, right click the cuirass, shift right click the armature, file, export, cuirass. Pants, shift right click the pants, shift right click the armature, file, export, pants. Boots. Those boots are really awful, even by this standard. They look like Ugg boots. For the sake of the tutorial, I will keep them in here. Okay, and what else is there? Oh, the halberd. Yeah, of course. Right click the halberd, shift right click the armature, file, export, FBX. Axe. Now just keep in mind, make sure these settings are there. I mean, even though they should remain the same, just double check to be sure. Let's do halberd instead. That's it, right? Yeah, okay, so now we're kind of done with this one. Now you can save it or do whatever you want. Looks like I already have, oh yeah, I already have the pants. We didn't need to export those. But let's go and get up that equipping. If you have two monitors, it helps. Well, what I like to do is just drag them in. So let's, in the models, we'll create, I guess you can create a folder, or you can just drag them in. Here, select them all. I just went shift select all that stuff and drag them in there. Done. Okay, so there's a couple of things we have to do now. I have to assign materials to all of these so they don't look so crappy. So I'll do that right now and come back. Okay, I just got the materials sorted out. So now let's drag these onto the human, all of these. Boots, let's drag them onto that human in the center of the screen. That shouldn't be happening. This is also a time to test if I made any mistakes in the first stages. Oh. All right. And the beard. Okay, so, oh, the gambeson too. Now let's drag all these. Oh, I think I know, yeah, I know what's going on. Okay, the reason why it's out of whack is because we exported them while they're in the animation pose, so that's what they're kind of locked into. Don't worry about it, they'll all be fixed once we attach it to the skeleton. Alright, let's start with the hair. Let's click on the beard or whatever. Materials, drag that in there. Nope. Right. Drag that in there. And let's check the specularity on that. It's got a very shiny beard, it's like a plastic beard. Change that down to like, I think 1.2 works for hair. Oh, 1, no. Not 1. 0.12. It's good enough. Okay, click the long hair, go into its child, hair long, drag this brown hair, moustache, drag these. So that's the hair done. Curious, go to the curious. Oh, I knew I was going to be forgetting something. Yeah, I don't have a metallic one, so create. It doesn't matter. Okay, create a material, call it just metal. We'll change the color to max, something like that, and then change metallic value right up. Smooth this up, like that. Okay, good. All right, so curious, click on that, go in here. Nice shiny curious. Gambeson. Boots, and the crappy boots. Let's drag this brown boot material onto those, so go into that. I guess they can be slightly shinier than normal, but not that shiny. Something like that. Okay. And then what else? Gambeson, where are you? There. Gambeson, and then drag this onto it. That looks alright. And then Halberd. And then click this wood and metal material. Yeah. Oh, okay, right. I know what's going on. This has not been... That's better. What this texture is doing is it's telling Unity what I want to have specular shading and what I don't. So I don't want the wood to be as shiny and as reflective as the metal. And that's what this is doing here, which is useful. Yeah, cool. Okay, so that's all of that done. The next step is we go into the scripts and we set this up so we have all of these items in the database, and we also change the equipment script so it can take these items as well, because at the moment the only thing we can add is something of type pants or type legs. Alright, so we'll do that in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching.